Hey, a rational theist, episode 15. I was right yesterday. For those of you that follow along every single day, I wasn't sure, but yep. Anyways, doesn't matter. Episode 15 got the green light on in representation of Missions of the Amazon. That's our main color. We're in the jungle, but obviously it's not Peru's color. Peru's color is white and red. But in today's episode, wanted to be focused on where I'm going, leaving the country for 12 days to probably the nation I love second most. I still love America the most, but wanted to give you guys the pitch for doing something extraordinary with your life. That does not mean you have to come down and do it with me in Peru, though. Love to have you do it. Super pumped about the 21 young adults from 22 to 29 that are going to be joining me, and we're going to go kick some butt. And if you're one of those people that wants to go hang out in the jungle, love to have you. But beyond that, I just believe so much in the power of getting ourselves up out of our comfort zones and doing what I call acting your way into a new way of thinking. I grabbed that from Brad Briscoe probably 15 years ago. A buddy of mine used to live in Kansas City. Now he lives down in Florida. But it's just so hard for us as Americans to shake ourselves out of our rhythms and doing something awesome and adventurous and risky and potentially dangerous oftentimes allows us to have very spiritual and influential encounters. And I guess that's what I'm going to talk about today, because it wasn't until I went down to Peru when I was 22 years old in 2009 that I truly understood what it is that I'm about to talk about. That even though I had faith, I had a passion to do medicine and help change the world. I didn't know what it looked like to fully serve and give myself over to something that was so much more than me. And I probably won't go into in this short 15-minute, as I try to limit it, episode to the whole story. You can go find that in my Discordant Harmony podcast with Clay. You can look up Discordant Harmony. It's on all the podcast networks, but it's specifically the episode, the one about Jason. I kind of go into it a little bit more, but what I was able to experience down there in that 3 months that I was down there with Chelsea was extraordinary, and it was a life that I could only dream of because it was so far beyond what I could comprehend. And I was this, oh my gosh, this arrogant punk at 22, I guess, that thought he had the whole world figured out, checked all the boxes, and the world looked pretty black and white. But once I got down there, I realized that these people were experiencing a life that I wanted more than the life that I had ever experienced. That there was more authenticity, there was more dependency upon God to provide for their daily needs, and then to see the miraculous in the midst of those prayers and expectations. And out of it came love and acceptance and community in a way that I had at that time not yet experienced. But because of that experience, I was able to bring that from Peru into my world and bring it into my family with my parents, brothers, and church environment and community. And it just taught me so much about what the human being is capable of, that in a world that, especially for us Americans, is so rat race driven and providing for the next best thing or saving up for our kids' education or whatever it is, that life really does boil down to caring and loving and having compassion and empathy for your neighbors. And when you're sitting there living in a village in the middle of nowhere with nowhere else to go but to build a house out of the wood that's in your backyard, and you're then dependent upon the community that you lay a foundation around, it just breaks all those preconceived notions, and it really helps put into perspective what it is that I think God had intended for this world. And being able to go and experience that for myself, I could probably do a year-long series on everything I've experienced in the last 15 years of being a part and running this organization. And I'm going to kick that off this week. I don't think I'm going to do a daily year-long thing, but we're going to start emissions of the Amazon feed as long as the Starlink that I was able to get my hands on works. We'll be able to do a weekly deal where we just tell stories and create some cool jungle ASMR things for kids to fall asleep to, and just try to immerse you in the world that I'm passionate about. But now I'm getting off point. Um, I've just been able to experience so much, and I've learned so much through the life that they've had and continue to have, obviously. And the fact that I'm so privileged to be in their lives means the world to me. And to be able to bring Americans down there to just see how special they are and to come alongside of the work that we continue to do and dream about is, I think, what life's all about. I guess that's my perspective on it, that God's uniquely gifted each of us to go do something fantastic to influence the world and bring about his glory. And so, as inconsequential as a quote from a celebrity or an athlete is, okay, first, God be the glory, or whatever, however they say that, this really is, like, I'm putting this into practice. And if you want to be a part of what we're doing, would love to have you be a part, because we're actively changing the world for good. And I don't know that God's redeeming message is about quote unquote changing the world as much as it is showing his love and making sure everybody in this world understands what he had intended and who he is. But in the meantime, there are human beings that are trying to make a living and survive. And we've been able to develop this huge ecosystem of holistic, sustainable communities that we have businesses, we have a hospital, we have clinics, we have churches, community centers, and language training centers, and job training centers, and all the different deals. And so if you happen to be listening to this and this sounds interesting, love to chat with you. But beyond that, even if you're not, like, I'd love to help you find what your thing is. But don't let me forget to plug. We need resources all the time. I'm not good at that. I just assume the idea of what I'm talking about means something, but obviously we're in a place where we always need funding, because to do what we're dreaming about, we need funds. So if you like that idea, would love your support and would love to partner with you and be able to see the dream imagined through us together. But beyond that, if Peru's not your thing, would love to walk alongside of you and help you figure that out. And I won't pitch you any longer. I want you to know that I want this for you. I want all of you guys to have the things that you're passionate about. And if you find yourself in a place that you don't really have passion about much, just shoot me a message. 913-912-2998. And love to chat and could explore what does it look like to find that message? And I've got tools, resources, assessments, all the things. And hopefully my Starlink works and we'll be able to have this ongoing conversation throughout the next 12 days. But if not, you will get a new podcast introduced when I get back. And then I'm going to go back again. And the whole summer is a whole thing. But so pumped for what God has in store for the group that he's brought together, for what he continues to do through Missions of the Amazon, and would love to have you guys along in the journey through your prayers. Obviously, we just want to be healthy at the baseline, but then praying against spiritual warfare. God doesn't like it when people shift their mindsets, paradigms, perspectives, and so that's always a potential. But my dream, especially with the 21 young adults, is that they would be shook to the degree that then they're able to see the world on the whole in a way that, whether it be Peru, Missions Amazon, or some other place, that their lives would be remarkably changed to then go and do something great themselves in a similar way that God did with me when I went down when I was 22 years old to the middle of the Peruvian Amazon. So with that, I will now move on to my movie review. I said yesterday the art of chemistry is what I was going to do. I'm actually doing lessons in chemistry, the awesome Apple Plus TV show based on a book with Brie Larson, and I think the actual name of the girl that Brie plays is Elizabeth Soft. Gosh, I should have written this down. I haven't wrote the review yet by hand or generated my image for it, but wanted to talk about it because it brings in the elements of my personality and my character, where in a similar way that I grew up in the biochemistry world, got a biochemistry degree, took every math and science course or not math. I stopped math at Calc 2, but I took every biology and science course that I could. Chemistry and biology. Wow, why am I tripping up on this? Because I'm not that much of a biochemist anymore. So I took every biology and chemistry course that was available to me at school. And that, I think, shows a bit of my character and who I am. And I think about things very analytically. And for those of you that subscribe to the Ephesians 4 perspective and mentality and paradigm, I'm very apostolic in nature, and I like to develop strategies. And so then to see Elizabeth go and do what she does in this TV show is extraordinary. That it kind of balances. It's set in, I think, the 60s, and the whole deal is, okay, in the 60s, it's got, I'm not being very focused here. Let me focus. Set in the 60s in a time where there's not great equality. There's not racial equality. There's not sex equality, male and female. And so this gal is an extraordinary lab technician, and she's way better than that, but she can't move up. So she meets this guy who's the dork in Top Gun, the guy that plays the dork in Top Gun, and that's her husband. And ultimately, you get to see the way in which he's able to bring her in and then give her a platform by which then she can go and just be her and be extraordinary in trying to marry science and humanity, which oftentimes I think in our culture we do not allow for that much anymore, where we have the humanity side over here and the science and technology over here. But this movie does its best, this TV show does its best to kind of I guess, tell a story that is interesting and fascinating and kind of breaks down the barriers between all of that. And I think what truly struck me about the series is that it navigates it and celebrates it in such a way that it's a beautiful movie. So, like, it's all about this gal, like, so Brie Larson goes and, "Okay, I can't go and become a chemist in the way that I want to, so I'm going to work my way into this role for quote unquote women where I'm doing this daily cooking show and I'm going to talk about the chemistry within cooking and within, putting these different ingredients together and what's actually happening and why something, you know, I can't even talk about it well because I do not bake, I do not cook well, so I can't speak about it very well. But the way she eloquently speaks about the science behind what's going on in the kitchen show that she's running. And so that's kind of what they're playing on is haha girl in the kitchen, but she's actually this brilliant scientist and then receives such praise that then she's going up against the TV execs and ultimately finds her own voice, figures out what it does to or what it means to, I guess, kind of put your foot in the ground for a brilliant white scientist. And then her best friend is a black gal with a black family that is at the same time fighting for racial equality. And so that interchange and the work that they do together and the way they show this and depict the times that we had back in America, and I would say actually still have, is beautiful and it's worth your time. And so I guess the undercurrent of the spiritual, I try to do that most times, is just that oftentimes the spirit may tell us to do something that seems extraordinary or may alienate us, but if we follow that in the same way that I followed the spirit and his advice down to the jungle, and then what I continue to do through Missions of the Amazon and amongst this conversation that we're having via this podcast or whatever you would call it, I think it'll hold true. It's worth it that to find your voice, find your identity, utilize the gifts that God's been giving you, and don't let the world tell you what you should or should not be or define your place. That the world's a better place when we have the rebels, when we have the people that are willing to sit there and tell people, no, this is what God's telling me to do. And for any of you guys out there that are feeling that way, that want to tell the world, no, I would love to listen and help celebrate you and launch you into wherever God's calling you to do. So thank you. I'm going to get on a plane and hopefully my Starlink will work tomorrow. Peace.